During this time, there's a lot of changes in the parent-child relationship. So during middle adulthood is when most people will sort of launch their children from the home to somewhere else. So it's typically around this period that their children are going to be graduating from high school and either going off to college or starting careers, starting families of their own. So obviously there's a decline in parental authority. The parents are no longer in control of the decisions that the child is making really at all. The child is off doing their own thing. Most parent-child relationships, though, during this time are marked by continued contact, affection, and support to the children. There may be difficulties that come from adjusting to in-laws. So as children, get married, then you have to deal with the dynamics of bringing in other family members, which can sometimes be strenuous. And another difficulty, it's kind of a difficulty and also fulfilling, is what's called the ken-keeper role. So as children leave the house and move out to their own places, especially if they move far away, it oftentimes will fall on the mother in that family to sort of keep everyone in contact with each other. It's usually the mothers who are going to be placing phone calls, who are going to be organizing like holiday events, trying to get all the children to come home or meet in one place, and that's referred to as the ken-keeper role. And so there's kind of this shift away from being, in control of the household to having your children sort of scattered everywhere and trying to gather them back during important times. This parent-child relationship is affected by investment in non-parental relationships and roles, especially work. So if children, get careers that they're really, really involved with, then they may be less likely to maintain contact with the parents. Also by the children's characteristics. So off-time children are basically children who do not follow the expected course of launching. So they may leave much earlier than the parents expect them to, or they may linger in the household, stick around longer than the parents expect them to. And those, mismatches between the parents' expectations and what the children actually do can often create stress. Also, having a child who is maybe unsuccessful or isn't adapting well can really cause detriments in the parents' moods and life satisfaction. It's actually been shown that having one child that's really, struggling to adapt to life after high school can decrease a parent's mood, but then having like another child who's really successful doesn't necessarily offset that. And so it's kind of said that most parents are only as happy as their least happy child during this time period. There's a lot of cultural variations in this launching process and kind of what parents expect from children. In European countries, for example, places like Italy, Greece, and Spain, it's kind of expected that children will stay in the household until they get married. And if they leave before that, then parents can sometimes see that as like a sign that there's something wrong in the relationship. And so again, just depending on the culture, there's pretty big differences in what parents expect during this time period. So like I mentioned at the beginning, one of the really important relationships that develops during this time is grandparenthood. So on average, most grandparents will become grandparents in early 50s. That's shifting a little bit as people have children at a later age and have less children. That's kind of creeping up into the mid-50s at this point. But most people spend about 1/3 of their life as a grandparent if they do have grandchildren. It's obviously a significant milestone for most. Most people are very much look forward to being a grandparent and something that they get a lot of value and fulfillment from. It's a means of fulfilling personal and societal needs and really contributes to that sense of generativity that I talked about at the beginning. So now not only are you passing on things to the next generation, but also the generation after that through your grandparenting. Grandparent-grandchild relationships are influenced by a huge number of factors. So the age of the grandparent and the grandchild, most people tend to have a really close relationship with their grandchildren when the grandchildren are really young, but then as they grow older into adolescence, then there may be strains on that relationship in some cases. Also the gender of the child and the grandparent. Proximity is one of the biggest factors that contributes to this relationship. So how close the grandparent lives to the grandchild really plays a huge role in determining if they're going to have a close relationship or not. And then of course things like socioeconomic status, ethnicity, culture, etc. And then relationships with the daughter or son-in-law. So to have a relationship with a grandchild, you obviously need to have relationships with your children and their spouses. And so if there's a strain in that in-law relationship, then that can sometimes make it more difficult to have close relationships with a grandchild. Like I said, it's a vital context for sharing between generations, sort of passing on traits, not just to the next generation, but the generation after as well. All right. During this middle adulthood period is a time that's sometimes referred to as the sandwich generation, and basically that refers to the fact that someone in middle adulthood is likely going to be taking care of their own children, who are sort of younger in age, but at the same time maybe taking care of aging parents who are having health issues, illnesses, etc. And so they're kind of sandwiched in between the parents they're taking care of and the children that they're taking care of, and that can cause all kinds of stresses and burdens during this time period. So obviously there are financial difficulties with this. If you have to contribute to pay for your parents' health issues, their medical bills, etc., that can be really difficult. Location plays a role. So typically if an aging parent lives close, then it's more likely that you're going to have to take care of them compared to if they're living far away. Gender is another factor. So women are much more likely to care for aging parents than men are. If there is a daughter in the family, then often taking care of the aging parents falls to the daughter more than sons. This graph just shows hours of time spent caring for an aging parent for working and non-working people. You have men here and women here, and you can see that women tend to spend a lot more hours doing caregiving for older adults than men do. With age, that sex difference declines. That might partially be due to those androgynous traits that I talked about. As men get older, they may take on more feminine characteristics and may be more likely to be caring and sort of sensitive and emotional. But also there may be shifts in the career that allow for men to spend more time caregiving. So that sex difference does decline as people get older. Time devoted to care is a lot. So you can see from this graph, for example, that women are spending this is percentage. I thought it was hours. I have another graph that's hours, but I didn't put it in here and I forgot what the hours were. But it's a large number of hours that people spend taking care of aging parents. Obviously that depends on the severity of whatever illness or health issues the aging parents have. Challenges are magnified for working women, so trying to balance working in a career, advancing in the career can be really difficult if you have to take time off to care for aging parents. Over time, parents' condition is likely to decline, and so that leads to an escalation in the amount of hours and time that someone has to put into taking care of them. Stress is greatest for those who share a household. So if the aging parent moves in with the midlife adult, then that can put a lot of strains because you have conflicts, that come from living together. Despite all those things, most people help willingly and receive benefit personally. They feel a sense of reward and accomplishment and closeness taking care of their aging parent, and so it is something that most people are willing to help with. Maybe I talk about it on the next slide, I don't remember, but there are actually some government programs and things that can help if someone has an aging parent and they're taking care of them. Things like Medicaid will actually provide assistance to help pay for some of the financial difficulties that come with that. So the consequences of caring for aging parents, there's emotional, physical, and financial. I've already kind of talked about that. It can be extremely stressful. Risks include role overload, so feeling kind of stretched in all directions, like you don't have enough resources to do everything you want to do. Taking time off of work, exhaustion, inability to concentrate, depression, anxiety, etc. Women are more profoundly affected by these consequences, partially because they are doing more of the work. Some supportive measures that help alleviate some of these consequences: positive experiences at work, so having a work environment that encourages you to take time off and do what you need to do to take care of family members. Having social support from family members and team effort, so if there's siblings that can help do some of the care, then that's helpful. And then, like I said, there are government-sponsored home helper systems. There are better systems in other countries outside of the US. So places like Denmark, Sweden, and Japan have these home helper systems where it's basically a trained person that can come into the house and take care of the aging parent, do some of the duties so that it doesn't all fall to the children of the aging parent. And we have programs like that in the US. There are definitely people who can come in and take care of someone, but it tends to be sort of cost prohibitive. It's very difficult to pay for something like that in the US. And so places like Denmark, Sweden, and Japan have a much more affordable home helper system than we do here.